One. Welcome to Lift Your Leg. This is Winnie Canstey from the Naughty Dog in Victoria, BC, author of As a Dog Thinketh.
And Jill Brown from Calgary, Alberta, the Bag Lady.
Today we are tackling a topic that neither of us even know what to label it. So here's a scenario. Several times in my career, more than several, but several very pointed times in my career, I have done a really good job retraining a dog that I felt very proud of. I can see the change. The people could see the change, and yet they were furious with me and said I never did my job, which is so crazy because they could see the change and acknowledge the change. But the reason they felt I never did my job, I believe, is because they're coming from the purely positive world, where they are so used to having to do exercises to give the dog their dinner, exercises to get the dog out of the house, exercises to work on doorway management. So their life is kind of filled up with dog training exercises. Mm-hmm. And they come to me, they're like, what's my homework? Nothing. Get out of his head, let the dog relax. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Well, can I hide his food around the house? No, just go to the beach, hang and chill. Let him just let this dog be a dog at the beach. Go there for an hour. And they think I'm crazy. So it's been kind of an ongoing thing. And so Jill is going to help us define this one. And so I've gotten into trouble with this with both balanced trainers and purely positive reinforcement trainers. Because often when I'm training these dogs, I'm neither. I'm not working with balanced and I'm not working with purely positive. I will use all when I need to, but for some of these rehab cases, I'm not doing either. I'm doing something completely different, and that's what we're going to talk about. What is it that we do, Jill?
Maybe better yet, what is it that you don't do? And you don't follow any real type of training, like you just said. You use a little bit of everything, but I could understand why people think that when they come and get their dog from you, because so much of the stuff that you do is it's just day-to-day stuff. You don't have a recipe. You're not teaching them this, that, or the other thing. But you might do one exercise, in quotation marks, because it's not even that will then roll over into 5 or 10 different scenarios that will become better because of this one exercise. The one that pops into my head is just when you're sitting around watching TV and you or Brian have the board and train dog out with you sitting in your lap. And I mean, he's great for getting them all jazzed up and doing the raspberries and stuff on them. But when they want to leave, they don't get to leave.
We're just holding them on our lap in a kind of a form of forced cuddling.
Yeah.
Mandatory cuddling, if you will.
Yeah. So by doing that, somebody that hadn't trained with you before would just be like, well, big deal. Why am I paying for that? They're just watching TV, cuddling my puppy. But that then rolls over into them allowing you to pick them up.
Yeah.
Them allowing you to brush them, to do nails. It's
learning patience if they don't get to get up and they want to. Learning not to use their teeth because inevitably they'll try and bite you if they want to get up.
Yeah.
Especially the young puppies.
So by one little, not really exercise, you're teaching the dog a whole bunch of life skills in other areas.
And in the process, we're bouncing them on our knee. We're blowing zerberts at them if it's kind of gotten loose or if they need loosening up. We're playing with them. It's fun, but it's on our terms, not theirs.
Yeah. So while it's super fun for them, it's not just playing. It's actually something they're learning through this being fun and goofing around with them.
Yeah. And it folds over into vet exams.
Yep.
Of learning restraints, toenails, grooming. That's where that one's going.
Now, if you sent that puppy home with the people and said, now, every night from 6 to 6:30, you have to sit with it in your lap, and when it fights, do this, they would then understand because they would be given a recipe to follow. But then they would just turn it into an exercise that's no longer doing its job.
Well, they are getting that. But when my adult board and trains go home, one of their exercises is to sit on a park bench away from the world, so on the other side of the street where a whole lot of activity is going on, and sit there and groom their dogs for half an hour. So it's exactly the same exercise in big dog form. But because it's grooming, they're not seeing the relevance.
Yeah. Well, I guess at that point they think the dog is learning to be brushed, but they're not seeing it rolled over into everything else.
And with that brushing, if a puppy's scared of like big scary traffic, like a dump truck, and a dump truck is coming along, I brush a little bit harder. So I'm making him focus on the brushing, not the dump truck. Or if another dog is coming by and he doesn't like dogs, I'm just going to brush a little bit harder. So I'm giving him something else to focus on. So it's also how I work through some of their fears when they're standing still.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of interrupting that train of thought that's starting in their brain.
So people are being taught this, though. It's just not clicking. Because I think it's not a daily. It's like we did this once.
Well, I just don't think that they're understanding everything that falls under that umbrella. Like by doing that, all of the benefits that they're getting from it, I think that's where there's a bit of a drop in communication or a disconnect. They don't get how important that is and where it helps in so many different areas.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things you do?
Loose leash walking with every single dog.
Once they're bad enough to be pulling you.
With all my board and trains all are getting loose leash. Probably fairly close to the start, unless it's a unique dog or a fearful street dog or something like that.
Okay.
So they're all getting that. But again, I think loose leash is something that I'm teaching it because I don't want my shoulder ripped off, yes. But I'm not teaching it for that. I'm teaching it because it's teaching the unfocused wild child to go inwards and learn to play the piano. It's helping them focus. It's helping them control themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
It's connecting them back to you. It's respect 101. They move their feet when you move theirs. They need to stop when you stop, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And through loose leash walking, they are going to copy the owner's handling of how to get through their dog reactivity. So it's almost like the owner is going to demonstrate what the dog should be doing in moments that they have previously been misbehaving.
Right.
So that they can just copy. So we're their life coaches of a sort.
So owner just goes and dog realizes I should just keep walking.
Yeah. Owner's eyes are forward. Hips and shoulders point in the direction where you want your dog to go, not where you're scared about where they may end up, which is at the other dog. Yeah. Look at the person you're going past and smile and say good morning, which is an amazing thing to loosen up so many reactive dogs when they see you being normal rather than call your dog. Mm-hmm. Just showing them in ourselves that I'm chill and I have no problem going past this dog. You can do it too.
Yep. The other thing your loose leash walking teaches them, which I didn't really get until recently, is if they can't pull on the leash, there's no way that they can hit the end of the leash to react to another dog.
Exactly.
I suppose they could take a step as long as the leash doesn't tighten, but
I've only ever known 2 dogs with perfect loose leash that
just knew how far they could go before they hit the leash.
Yeah. One, of course, was an Aussie, and he would bounce in the air and do it without pulling on the leash.
Okay.
But that's 2 dogs. Think of all the dogs I've worked with.
Yep.
And 2 learned how to beat the system.
Yep.
The rest of them didn't. They just chose not to anymore. So another one of the people years ago that was so frustrated with my training because she didn't think I had done anything. I sent her home with one exercise that she was to do once every 6 weeks. And it was to throw a ball left, let her dog chase it. As the dog's flying back, tell her out, throw another ball to your right, let the dog fly out, grab it. As she's flying back, throw another out. So she lets go of that one and throw your third ball far to the left. And when she's halfway there, say down. So it's totally high drive control. But if you practice this all the time, you just take the high drive out of it and it goes to medium level drive because they just start learning to listen.
Right.
So that's why she was only allowed to do it once every 6 weeks. And she left the board and train. The only thing she gave me was an exercise I'm allowed to practice once every 6 weeks. And so it wasn't until months and months later that she was talking to a friend of mine about her dog. And she's like, yeah, my dog just grew out of all her issues. And she's like, but didn't you do a board and train? She's like, yeah, but it didn't. I don't think it really helped. And she's like, well, what were the issues? Dog reactivity. She's still doing that? No. What were the other issues? So they kind of went through one by one of all the issues that this dog had. And then she realized that all of them had gone away. But even though it went away with me at the point of the board and train, she never dotted the dots to actually realize that I was the one to do it, because she had come from the force-free world. And it's such a different philosophy. And I think people are really just struggling, switching their heads from the force-free mindset to get out of your dog's head and let them be free. Stop giving them instructions. Stop rewarding them for breathing. And stop rewarding them for looking at you, for moving away from you, for everything.
Yeah.
Just let them be a dog. But that is so alien to these hardworking students that have learned all this force-free stuff.
Yeah. I think your way of training is alien to everybody, whether it's force-free or balanced or old school, until people have a chance to train with you and see the results. It just comes across as a little crazy.
Not the only one doing this, surely.
I don't know anyone else that does that.
I can't be the only one. There's no way.
Well, you might not be. I'm just saying I don't know of anybody else that doesn't just fix the problem they're seeing. They go way beyond it to fix the base level thing, i.e. you have to sit on my lap while I want you to, rather than just saying, no, just correct him when he wants to jump off your lap. I don't know anyone that trains that way.
So what I am doing is latent learning. So we're just kind of showing the dogs the right way, so they're learning it subconsciously without ever even really quite realizing they've learned it, until one day they show you they've learned it. So the best example of this was when you were training Prada in Port Alice, and you were doing your directed jumping. You had her sitting, you told her to jump. I think she did it wrong. So she put herself back out to the spot where you had her sitting.
Yes.
She did that on her own.
Right.
That is latent learning.
Okay.
So they've learned what we're wanting of them, but they've subconsciously retained it, and then at some point are going to show us.
Yes. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, so it's observing a behavior and repeating that behavior at another time, not as a direct imitation, even though no one is rewarding them to do that behavior.
Yeah.
So it's not rewards, it's not punishments. It's, you've seen that every morning I go out to the car, and you just start going to the car on your own and waiting there for me.
Yeah.
That's latent learning. And I think a lot of my training is through latent learning. And I guarantee there's a ton more people that are doing it. They just haven't put a word on it.
Yeah, maybe.
Now we have to all come up examples of latent learning, and maybe that's what we should be calling this podcast.
What are some of the other things you do just as a regular everyday thing? Your board and trains. You always travel with them loose in the vehicle.
I do. Yeah.
And the reason for that?
For a lot of the dogs at Resource Guard, and Puppy is going to have to do this because he's a resource guarder, if I just start going and taking away their prized resources, they're either going to fight me really bad for it or swallow it. They learn to do one of two things when they're resource guarders. So my first way of dealing with resource guarding is by stuffing them all in my van on a front seat. So they have to share with another dog. Then eventually they may have to share with another 2 dogs, depending on the size, 3 dogs. However, I'm going to jam them in there. And you will then start seeing that aggression and reactivity come out in that enclosed space. Now, I say you're going to see it come out. Hopefully actually not, because you're going to only put enough dogs in there so you can avoid it. But in the context of being in an enclosed space, like on the front seat of my car, I can carefully coach them through it when they're uncomfortable and build up their tolerance and almost make the other behavior go away.
Yeah. And once again, if you told somebody who was paying you to board and train their dog that...
How did I work with his resource guarding?
Yeah.
I made him sit on the front seat with Pippa.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it makes very little sense until you know the background.
And that's one of those, that one I did learn on my own. And that's just learning through trial and error. You've got this dog that's a bit of a problem. And now he's sharing the front seat with 2 other dogs. And you could see the first day how uncomfortable he was. And on day 3, he's as happy as anything.
Yeah.
And some of the bigger dogs that I can't make go on my front seat, I will make them share crates together too. And again, it's one of those that they have to learn to share, play nice in the sandbox. I think it's just teaching kids to play nicely in the playground versus educational learning. Like, this isn't book learning. This is manners and getting along with others.
Yep.
I'm currently looking out my window at one of my boarding dogs who's standing on the other side of the window staring at me with little yip sounds. She's so cute. Bad Isla. Thank you, Jill, for that. What other weird things do I do? Because I think this is one of those, you know it better than I do, because I just do it.
Yeah, it's just...
I don't know what I'm necessarily doing, and I don't necessarily know what other people do either.
There was another, we've talked about this one before, and that's dogs that are gulping and swallowing prizes. And again, you don't take it away from them or try to trade it. You take them to the beach and give them 1,000 things that they can gulp and swallow, and then it becomes less of a novelty.
Boring, yes.
Yeah.
Not always, though. It does depend on the dog. So my little golden retriever here right now, he will eat and swallow. And so he's had socks already in his belly. The last day I had come back from months of vacation and my lawn was knee high. So I had to get mowed. So there's a lot of mulch on my lawn right now, like mouthfuls and mouthfuls of mulch. And he was going to eat it all. Then I had him for 3 days and he didn't eat a single mouthful of it.
Yeah.
Until yesterday when he was tired and groggy in his sleeping day and he ate it for the first time. Funny, eh? So I haven't yet learned weird puppies' patterns and behaviors yet, but...
Yeah.
So the other thing for that naughty little resource guarding puppy is toilet paper is another one of his nemesis, as are Kleenex dropped on the floor. Mm-hmm. And they're in and down the gullet before you can really respond.
Yep.
With him, I've let him eat lots and lots. And it hasn't slowed him down one bit because I think he's lost all of his possessions. So for him yesterday, he got in trouble for it. And let's see what that looks like today. I have no idea yet. I won't know if I've done the right thing or the wrong thing until I drop another Kleenex on the floor.
It's true. I had one that never outgrew it.
Yeah.
But that was just she just had a paper fetish, and had I been smarter, I would have used it for training purposes.
You would have. I think for some of these, like once it's become so ingrained, it's near impossible to stop. You have to stop it at the beginning.
Yeah.
You can't let it build to the point of being an obsession. What was I going to say? Oh, and with this puppy, if he got sticks and that, they would go and take his stick to play with him. Which, while it seems sweet, get your own damn stick.
Yeah,
And make him want to play with yours. Stop taking his possessions. So through good intentions, this has been built in him. He's just learned that everything gets taken from him.
Yeah.
Harry's being naughty. Imagine that, Harry. What other weird stuff do I do, Jill?
Those were the main ones that I was thinking of.
And I think a lot of my lessons, like most of my lessons, they're either games, but not necessarily with board and train. That's more training my sport dogs or competition dogs. Though I might, depending on what I need to teach that dog. But most likely, all of their lessons are coming from life. So we're going to go to the beach. We're going to go on a loose leash walk. We're going to go grooming. We're going to sit on a bench. We're doing normal daily things that have purpose to the dogs.
Yeah.
Because I think for a lot of the non-work ethic breeds, when we're asking them to do some of this stuff just because we said so, it makes no sense to them. And they're going to argue. And I don't blame them. Whereas no dog argues sitting on a bench and getting brushed. That makes sense to them, even the ones that hate getting brushed.
Yeah.
Toenails are another big one for me.
Yes.
Toenails are a huge one. If there's a bite in a dog, it will come out when you're cutting their toenails.
Yeah.
Mental note, do puppies' toenails. And I'm not saying they have to like it. They don't. They're allowed to pull their foot back, wiggle, be a pain in the ass. But they're not allowed to bite me.
Yeah. That's
the only rule. Biting teacher, not allowed. I need my fingers.
To continue teaching.
Yeah. So what other weird stuff is there that we do? I know, and this I think takes a long time. We don't nag at our dogs.
Yeah.
So we're very much their teammates. Like Puppy yesterday, we were out training and we were teaching a dog to tug. And a good way to teach them to tug is with a towel with a few rips in it. So they pull and the towel just rips apart. Then they suddenly have a piece of it. You have the other piece. They come flying back for yours. They tug, they pull, it rips apart again. So we'd been doing that with the dog. And put him back in the car, ran Harry and Puppy around the field, and we're picking up all the bits of towel. Well, suddenly they look like the socks that this puppy likes to swallow. So he got one in his mouth. Actually, I had them all, and they were in a big roll at that moment in time. So he got the roll in his mouth, and he put it in his back molars, chomped his jaw closed, and said, "Go ahead, make me." So I clapped my hands and told him how clever he was, and gave him a salmon treat for it. He took his salmon treat, and I handed him his towels right back.
Yep.
And he down again. And come on then, buddy, let's go. And off leash, off we went for our walk. So he carried it probably for about 150 paces, quite some time.
Yeah.
And just looked kind of angry and tense with it. And then just suddenly changed and softened. And couldn't be bothered to carry them anymore, put them down. So I ran back. I'm like, no, get your towels. And I'm kicking them. So now they've come apart. So he grabbed some, carried it for like 2 paces, then couldn't be bothered. He just wanted my salmon treats. But at the end of that walk, there was a little bit of towel on the floor, and he went for it. One of the girls I was with grabbed it. I think she thought he was going to swallow it, which he was, because then she went to grab it. So amazing how fast she could trigger that response. And I'm like, no, let him have it. So I went back and I fed him a piece for the towel in his mouth. So he just ate his cookie. I handed him his towel back. And it's the handing him the towel back that's the weird part. Because as soon as he lets go, he's almost scared to let go because he thinks I'm going to take it. It's like, no, right here, get your towel. And I'm making him pick it up. And then he would carry it like 2 paces, couldn't be bothered. Carry it 2 paces, couldn't be bothered. Like, get your towel. So it was kind of the making him want to carry it. But who knows? Again, I won't know if I've made headway with that or not until next time. that we have a towel. So
Yeah. That is a huge one. With my guys, because they're retrievers, they tend to bring me whatever they've got anyway, or they look
yeah,
guilty when they're puppies, like I've got something. And I have done the same thing, like, what have you got? Let me see. And I might have to trade them for it, but they'll spit it out for a cookie, and then I give it back to them if it's not something that's going to kill them.
yeah,
In no time, they start coming to me with anything they found and wanting to show it to me, because so
yeah,
much of it gets given back to them. And if it's not, it's traded for something better.
yeah. We can't just take their prized possessions. And I think the equivalent would be if every time a kid got like a lollipop or something, and we just got to them like, you can't have sugar, and we just take it. After about the third time we took it, we'd teach them to slap us.
Or they will just go to their bedroom and eat it by themselves where nobody knows they have it.
Ah. Did we just define ourselves as people there? I'd get violent and hit. You'd hide in your bedroom and eat it.
You're the Malinois, I'm the Golden.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of funny how obvious this stuff is, but yet isn't. But I think fear abounds, right? Because with that towel, if he had swallowed it, I'm paying for surgery.
Yep. And I think that's the biggest problem with a lot of people. That's why they create the issues that they create.
Yeah.
Because they're so worried about the what ifs.
But even if I'm then paying for surgery, that's changed nothing. He'll just do it again and again and again.
Yep.
You have to change it. And making them feel proud for carrying it and letting them know you're their teammate and that you like it, that's the biggest thing.
Yep.
So I think another thing that I do that, remember Matthew started laughing at that, is I'm very mindful of the mental state that my dog is in. So Puppy was super angry a lot of the time. And I don't want to see a 4-month-old puppy that's got his jaw clenched closed and is angry at the world.
Yeah.
He should be a goober. He should be a silly, stupid puppy. For my own dogs, I do create a sense of humor. And I think I'm just very aware of where they're coming from mentally and then trying to change it to a healthier version of that mentally. And you're doing the same with your dogs.
Yeah. A lot of people just don't know how to read their dogs, though.
Yes,
I
agree.
You have now made me look at photos of dogs whenever somebody takes a picture of their dog. And I see happy or worried or angry or sad or just like, can you be done taking the picture?
It's so funny looking at photos at the end of a weekend, of a dog show weekend, where everyone's showing their wins. So their dog's there with their big smiling face.
Yeah.
There's their dog and the judge. And you look at the dog's face.
The dog's like, just get me out of here.
Some of the dogs are smiling as big as their people. And some are glaring at their owners. Some just want to run to the car. It's so funny how unaware people are of what their dogs are saying.
Yeah. I can't think of any other stuff.
Well, I think the other one is getting out of their heads is huge. You and I want our dogs to be dogs. We're not saying, no, don't do that, stop over there, or those derivatives. Like, it's amazing how much that gets said to dogs on a walk.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. And
well, if we do,
yes,
it's because it's necessary and the dogs know.
Yes.
Like, if I call you, if my voice is raised and I call you, it means you better get here now. And it doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong, but there might be something bad that's about to happen. I want you here now so I can deal with it.
And because we're not always asking these things for no purpose, no reason, our dogs believe us when we say it.
Yeah.
We're not always crying wolf.
Yeah.
To test our training, we're not doing that. If we say it, we mean it, and they know it, so they don't argue.
Yeah.
And also, if we are going to tell them off, we're going to tell them off. We're not
Yeah.
going to nag.
Yep. One and done.
Yeah. If I don't want you to do that anymore, Harry, you're going to realize I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
Which people are too scared to do also. But
Well,
nagging, the uh-uhs, that kind of thing, it tunes dogs out so fast.
it does, but it's acceptable to the general public.
But no one wants to get nagged at. You can shut a dog down so fast by...
I agree with you, but if you're walking down the street and your dog goes to do something bad, and you say, the person that's sitting out on their lawn having coffee is okay with you saying that, versus if you know your dog is thinking of doing something really bad and you put a correction on them,
Yeah.
then you've got that person up in arms or calling the Humane Society. Like, society has made us pander to the dogs.
I have a very, very clever client who has a very challenging dog that has pushed him and I and our skill level. She's strong. She actually is inconsistent in her behavior, and she's determined to be naughty on home turf, so when he's walking her around close to where he lives.
Okay.
And this man is genius. He has come up with a totally politically correct correction that he can do that his dog absolutely hates more than anything else and makes her try a whole lot harder. So if she goes to lunge at a dog, he puts her muzzle on and makes her wear it for half a block. Isn't that clever?
Yeah.
Like, it's genius. It's a true correction because no matter how much you condition them, dogs hate muzzles.
Yeah.
So he's just run with it. He's just using it as a correction. I think that's brilliant. And I told him I'm going to steal his idea. And I just shared it with the world. So there you go.
Yep.
Very clever.
Yeah.
And so politically correct. No one will tell you off for that one. Oh, good job. You're using a muzzle.
Yep. With Punch, I could have just picked her up. That could have been her big correction, if she was ever bad, which she never was. But she so hated being picked up or cuddled that if she did something bad, if I made her sit in my lap, that would be a big correction for her.
Well, and it does depend on the dog. Because isn't it Sizzle? I just have to sound disappointed too. And she looks mystified.
Yes.
Sizzle. That will crush her little soul.
Like, oh dear, what did I do?
Whereas if I'm yelling, Harry, he just grins.
Yeah.
My meanest Harry command, he grins and runs at me full speed. He thinks he's so funny. Whereas Sizzle will mortify her. They're all so different and what they need.
The good thing
And
she's
that's the best
asleep.
part.
You would have just made her very sad.
Play it loud tomorrow. Sizzle. Sorry, Squizzly.
That would be mean.
So, kind of back to our latent learning again. We should be demonstrating what we want our dogs to do, but not in a way of teaching them, kind of.
Not in a step-by-step fashion.
Thank you. Yeah. Show them what your life is, and then let them show you what they've learned along the way.
Yeah.
Right? Well, they run to the car and jump in. That's latent learning. They just showed you.
Yep.
But you can do exactly the same for reactivity, to get them through resource guarding, for so many different things. Latent learning is a super way to teach a dog. And I think it's a much more natural way to teach our dogs than the behavior modification that we're all doing with balanced and force-free.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
And it builds your relationship more.
It's giving them the opportunity to almost feel like they figured it out on their own.
Well, they did. And then they can show you. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you think of, I had one dog that I think I was teaching go outs. And I sent her on a go out and I told her to sit. And when she turned around, she didn't sit, she play bowed. And I laughed. She'd never done it before. And I wholeheartedly laughed at her. And from that moment on, she was like, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm like, it took me months to teach you signals, but you can learn a bow in one exercise.
Yeah.
Like the next time she did it, I threw a name at it. And then from then on, that was her favorite thing.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah. They love those things that they learn all on their own. And they stick
feel
with them.
proud.
Yep.
And pride is the emotion that we want to be training in our dogs as much as possible. And what I'm seeing especially with the force-free, is the opposite of pride. It's almost condescending.
Yeah.
It takes away their pride.
And you know what? That's probably a really good baseline for all trainers, is to strive to make your dog proud.
Yes.
Not squelch everything.
Yes.
Just make them proud of who they are.
Yes. I want their tails high within the breed. And I want their skin loose over their ribs. And I don't want to see a clenched jaw. I want to see their mouth just slightly open or panting, but panting in a nice way.
Yeah. Unless they're about to do a recall. Or a send away. Or bite someone.
Well, I think we can wrap this one up. Thank you, Jill, for talking with me.
Thank you. It was fun.
Super. Thank you.
All right. See you next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.